What's up, guys? Today we got another speaker unboxing. We're going to be checking out the PSB Synchrony B600s and the PSB PWMs. Alright, so let's get this thing unboxed. First of all, shout out to the folks at PSB Speakers for sending this out to me for review. So thanks, PSB. But inside the box, we get the instruction manual. So this looks like it's probably the grill. Yes, this is the grill. And look at that. It's got a nice finish. It's got the PSB styling here where you get the tweeter below the woofer. But this is a 1-inch ferrofluid aluminum dome tweeter. It's got the wave guide here, which is nice. 6.5-inch woofer. Frequency response for this, I believe it's 55 Hz to 20K. It's got a nice metallic, I think it's an aluminum baffle. MDF enclosure, nice wooden veneer, dense. Swinging around to the back, this is a ported speaker. This is bi-wireable. It's got some nice little jumpers here. So if you want to jump it, you can remove those just like so. So you can bi-wire these, bi-amp them if you want. Well, those little plugs come out if you want to use some bananas on those. The cool thing about these speakers is that on the bottom, these include built-in isoacoustics feet. These will decouple the speaker from the stand, so it'll give you hopefully better frequency response, better bass response, tighter imaging, all that good stuff that you get with some isoacoustics feet. I also have a pair of these as well, some Apertas, I believe they're called, the Aperta isoacoustic stands that I've been using on the BMW 805s. So that's pretty cool that that actually comes built into the speaker itself. And the grill attaches magnetically, attached like that. It actually says Synchrony etched on the edge of the grill, on the top of the grill. So it's a nice little touch. But I think most people are going to use these for like a stereo system. But I wanted to check out this system as far as like home theater. So what I did was request what they had recommended would be a good timbre matched speaker for these guys. Which brings us to the PWM series. These are their on-wall speaker series. I've got two of them here, two different ones. I've got the PWM3s and the PWM2s. Inside the box here, we have a mounting template. So what we have here is the mounting bracket, really thin, so it's going to give you a nice low profile mount. And also a little bit of documentation. Oh, that's nice. That's real nice. This is the big one. This is the PWM3. You get your same 1-inch aluminum ferrofluid cooled dome tweeter inside the waveguide. Get two 3-inch mid-rangers, four 4-inch woofers with a frequency response of, I believe this is 60 to 20K. This is pretty robust cabinet. Size-wise, I think it's either 46 or 48 inches tall by 6.5 inches wide by 3.5 inches deep in depth. So it's not going to hang too far off your wall. Around back here, we've got the little keyhole slots for your screws for mounting. And just like the B600s, these are bi-wireable or bi-ampable as well. Almost exactly the same as the PWM3s. Two 3-inch mid-rangers and two 4-inch woofers. Instead of the four 4-inch woofers on the 3, you only get two on this guy. Same connections are on the back. And I think this is a ported speaker as well. I think this is a slot port, so you get the little slot port there on the edges. That's that side, and then there's another one on the other side. I believe this one is either 36 or 38 inches wide. I'll put the specs up on the screen. 3.5 inches in depth and 6.5 inches wide. And I think the frequency response for this is 70 Hertz to 20K. So the idea is to use these guys as the surround speakers since I've got two of them. Then the PWM3 is going to go behind my screen to use as a center channel. Then I'm going to use the B600s as the left and right speakers. So let's go ahead, get these things set up.
I'm going to be hooking up the speakers to a Trinnov processor, and they'll be powered by a pair of McIntosh amps. I'll be running some demos off of a Kaleidoscape and an Apple TV. The Synchronies are going to be placed to the sides of my screen, and the PWM will be hung behind my screen. The screen I'm using is a Stewart Harmony G2, and the PWMs are going to be hung on the wall to the sides of my seats. For these demos, I'm going to shut off my subwoofers and run all the speakers full range so I can hear how much bass these can produce on their own and see how dynamic they are. The first demo we're going to check out is Midway on the Kaleidoscape. It's a great demo because there's an ample amount of bass in not only the left and right speakers, but in the center and the surrounds. There's a ton of bass from all the planes that are flying around, and the musical score digs extremely low.
The Navy ain't gonna pay you for that. The Navy ain't gonna pay you for that.
I know it's hard to tell over video, but for as thin as the PWM speakers are, they could put out a healthy amount of bass on their own. But by adding the Synchronies to the mix shows just how much more extension they have over the thinner speakers. The soundtrack has a very low rumble during this part with a little girl that the 600s pick up quite well that the PWMs can't quite handle. I did like the bass and the weight that the planes had when they flew through the surround speakers up to the front, so the timbre was a great match amongst each channel. The planes did have a deeper sound through the 600s, but if you were to use a subwoofer, you'd get a better blend between each one since the subwoofer would be doing the heavy lifting. Next, we're going to check out Gravity. I love this demo because you've got characters that move through different channels while they're having a conversation. On my personal system, I've got 11 identical speakers, so the timbre of each one is a perfect match. So when someone's voice moves from the surround channels to the front channels, they sound identical. And this movie is a great test to check how well your speakers match. We don't want Clooney sounding like a full-grown man in the right channel, then sounding like a child in the center.
Now that you work for NASA, how do you like us?
I was just happy that they didn't cut the funding to my research.
How long was your training?
6 months.
So, what is this scanning system?
It's designed for hospital use, but this one's a prototype. Stand by for locking.
Listen, they don't bankroll prototypes, even for your pretty blue eyes.
Just like the Midway demo, the 600s do have a bit more weight for dialogue over the PWMs. Plus, they did an excellent job of picking up the bass from the drill. Aside from the slightly deeper mid-range on the Synchrony, I did think that the center channel, the PWM3, was a tad brighter than the Synchrony 600s. So dialogue was a little airier. However, I did find the surround channels, the PWM2s, a much closer match between the 600s as far as treble and detail. If I was going to build a home theater with the Synchronies, I think I'd choose the PWM2s for the center channel instead of the 3. Now, of course, you could probably EQ the PWM3 to match the other speakers, but without any room correction, that's what I heard. Are the PWM3s that much of a difference between the other speakers? Not at all, but hey, I gotta be a little nitpicky. And one more demo that's great is A Quiet Place Part 2. All these speakers so far have great tweeters, so let's see how well they pick up the little subtleties in this mix. Together as a whole, the setup can make your walls seemingly disappear, especially with how thin the PWM speakers are. Sound just seems to come from out of nowhere. There isn't much bass in this scene, but the PSBs delivered all the atmospheric nuance in the mix. There's really good spacing and soundstage from every channel without sounding tinny or bright. It sounds like you're outside with the insects surrounding you in almost every direction. I also found them to be a little more detailed than my B&W 7.4s. If I had all matching Synchrony speakers or even PWM speakers, I'd happily swap out my B&Ws. As a whole, I think the PWMs were a near perfect complement to the Synchrony 600s. Adding a subwoofer would definitely take it to the next level. If you've heard the 600s or even have a pair, I think by adding any PWM speaker as a center channel or a surround will make for a very small, inconspicuous, big-sounding home theater.
These things sound really great for home theater, but how do they sound for 2-channel, Shane?
Right now we've got them hooked up to a Cambridge Edge audio preamp powered by Parasound JC5 2-channel amplifier. Speaker wires, we got them hooked up with a pair of bi-wireable AudioQuest William Tell speaker cables. And as a control speaker, we are using the Acoustics Concept 300s. This is not going to be a comparison, but we wanted something that we could compare them to so we can hear the difference. What are your thoughts on the Synchrony 600s?
I thought they were fantastic speakers. They sounded great for all the songs we played on them. My favorite was the Cowboy Junkies Trinity sessions when they Sweet Jane live. They made you feel like you were in the room. They were a delightful speaker to listen to. Every song was really pleasing to the ear. It wasn't. They have a really weird, like a strange design with the woofer or the mid range on top and the tweeter on the bottom.
Yeah.
But it's a nice big speaker cabinet, so you get a nice expansive sound. It produces really nice low end. The thing about the Trinity sessions was it was recorded in a theater, and with these speakers, you really hear the character of the room. You hear each individual instrument, and although they were mic'd up to be basically recorded off the board, you can actually hear them all together as like say a cohesive unit, and each thing still sounds like very unique. The presence of the singer was right up front.
Yep.
The different guitar bits sounded really great, and they have the little hi-hat, just everything sounded fantastic and clear. These things are super, super clear. They kind of remind me of my my Sonos Fabers. They have a monitor quality.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that when you said it's kind of close mic'd, what I really heard was the presence of how close that mic was to the guitar in the right speaker. Mm-hmm. So it actually sounded like the guitar was actually in the room with us.
Right.
Kind of the characteristic I would give these speakers is very intimate sounding, especially with this recording. There's a slightly forward presence with these speakers. The mid-range, I thought, really excelled on this. When we listened to it, we kind of thought mid-range quality-wise, it sounded almost similar to what we heard with the Wharfdales. Mm-hmm. I think the Wharfdales were a little bit way more mid-range heavy, very heavy actually.
Yeah, it was that same Sympathy for the Devil song.
Yeah.
With the Wharfdales, when we played Sympathy for the Devil, the congas were just right up in your face. It was
almost overpowering.
Yeah, and on the right side, you also have keyboards coming through later on in the song. The problem with the Wharfdales was it never really equalized. It didn't sound balanced. With these, as soon as the keyboards came in, it's almost like they pulled back the congas on the mixing board because it equalized. It was really nice and really well balanced.
Yeah, and there's also this part where I think Mick, I don't know if he's not really grunting, but he kind of does this little vocal thing where he's like, and it's pretty. And with the clarity of the mid range, you can really hear his vocals kind of come out. I don't think I've ever heard that before on all these other speakers that we've heard before.
Yeah, I mean, you stopped and like, hey, did you hear that? Have we heard that before? And I've heard it before, but I've heard the song a bazillion times. In fact, I was kind of one that recommended it for this because of that, how active the song is. But yeah, there's a lot of things you listen to on various speakers, and sometimes you hear things, sometimes you don't. And just like with the Cowboy Junkie song, you heard everything this song had to offer in great detail.
And imaging, rock solid as well. I would have thought that having the tweeters slightly below ear level would have made soundstage seem lower. But actually, I'm going to say where we were sitting, they were probably about a couple inches below our ears. And as far as like spatial imaging, I would say that soundstage was probably right on eye line. Mm-hmm. So right in front of our faces. So it seemed very natural. It wasn't above us, wasn't really below us, but it was right above ear level.
I don't know how much can be attributed to, the Edge preamp as far as the sound staging, and I thought that I was kind of apprehensive or kind of wary of this the tweeter being below the mid, but I think it works really well, especially in cases of songs where you have a lot of potentially grating high-end stuff, really high notes that can be kind of harsh on the ears. It takes it below the ear line, and I think that's what may have been, made it softer sounding.
The Concept 300 is a great sounding speaker. I'm going to say mid-range is very similar to the 600s, although just like the air, the spaciousness missing from the Concept 300s, whereas I really think the aluminum dome tweeters on the 600s kind of capture more of the air, more of the spaciousness, more of a three-dimensional effect, so soundstage a little bit wider on these. Something that I was kind of missing with the Synchronies was that extra little bit of sparkle, little sizzle on the top end. When we're listening to Dominique Fils-May, there's some cymbals towards the end of the recording where you can hear kind of like sizzles away. Sound a little bit flat on the 600s, although that would make the speaker, I'm going to say like tonally, kind of a neutral speaker.
Right, which is what I was saying about being a monitor quality speaker. You don't want to overemphasize, because in that situation, you want to hear the actual sound so you know to adjust things up or down. And, you don't want it characterized or flavored by the speaker.
Correct, yeah. So very kind of a neutral, flat sounding speaker. Some people are going to like that, some people don't. I personally do like a little bit of flavor on the top end. So I did kind of miss that little extra bit of air that I've heard with the Sopras, also with the Dynaudios. But if you do kind of like a easy to listen to speaker for very long periods of time, for longer duration, these are very easy on the ears. It's a very mellow sounding speaker. And as far as like bass response, these things kind of rock, man.
Oh yeah, they did. They did a really great job. The Fils-May was, the upright is a great indicator of how well that captures, and I think that really did a fantastic job. Again, Sympathy for the Devil, you've got a lot of stuff going on, and the bass doesn't fade in that song at all.
Yeah.
You get to hear, you hear the kick.
Kick drum.
Yep.
Kick drum actually sounded like it was, I'm gonna say a few feet behind the speaker, and you can hear it kind of coupled with the room. Has a good resonant effect, at least in this space. I don't know what it's gonna sound like in yours, but here you can really hear it. Whereas on the Concept 300s, the Concept punches, I'm gonna say maybe punches very similar to it, maybe a little punchier than the 600s. But as far as like extension, I'm going to give it to the 600s.
I think for me, where it clearly, was clearly different. So we have the speakers set up, and we play a song. We both listen to it, and then we switch the speakers over. We play the same song again, so we can, we're very current as to I just heard this song on this speaker. Now how's it sound on this speaker? When we did that with the Cowboy Junkies, it was immediately clear to me about hearing the sound of the space. So I think the Concept 300s are a very nice sounding speaker. I mean, they sounded really good. I could listen to them all day long. But with the 600s, I wanted to keep listening to the album. I didn't want to stop. I wanted to hear more of this. And that's saying something. When you're listening to something and the quality of the speaker is such that it makes you want to continue listening, that's a good speaker.
Yeah, so definitely for sure extra detail and nuance in the 600s, whereas the kind of 300s sound a little bit more flat, a little bit more veiled. So this is not a competition.
No, I think if you like listening to, again, we need a framework to compare them to.
Yeah.
I think if you like listening to live recordings, I think these 600s would be a great speaker for you to listen to. Some people, that's not their thing. They want to listen to studio stuff. They want to hear, they don't want to hear the mistakes. They don't want to hear the sound of the room. They don't want to hear the crowd noise. I like listening to live recordings, and I think these things are a great speaker for that, that focus.
At the time of this video, a pair of Synchrony B600s are $2,500, PWM2s are $1,500 each, and the PWM3 is $2,500 each.
And to say that these things, listen, I hate to say it, but I think they outperformed the Q Acoustics at $3,500.
I think so. I mean, for my money, I would prefer, if I had $2,500 for those, I'd spend that $2,500 all day long.
So whether or not you're going to use them for home theater, which I felt they excelled in, especially at louder levels, great detail, great space, great sense of atmosphere, they're going to sound fantastic for home theater, especially if you're going to pair them up with the PMW speakers. And then for 2-channel audio,
they kicked ass. They did a really great job. They sounded fantastic.
So at this price point, I think they're going to outperform speakers costing, several times their price.
Yeah, like I told Shane, I said, that's a lot of speaker for $2,500.
Anyways, guys, that's our thoughts on the PSB Synchrony 600 bookshelf speakers. Have you guys heard them, and how do you think they sound? Leave a comment down below and let us know. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again in the next video.